Hi everybody, my name's Nick Thompson, holistic vet, and I would like to thank you for looking at my video that we've done on the 1, 2, 3 of what makes dogs itch. Before you start it, I'd like to just highlight a few things. And the first thing is that the immune system is key to every part of it. There are 3 key elements to why dogs itch. Number 1, parasites. Number 2, allergies and sensitivities. And number 3, infection. And the state and health of the immune system is key to all 3 of those elements. Just please bear that in mind. The next thing is, if you are starting on a new regime to try and get on top of the itch with your dog, don't just stop any meds that you're on at the moment, whether you're on steroids or Apoquel or Cytopoint or what have you. What I normally say is, let's try and create improvement in the dog, reduce the level of itch, and then that will allow us to buy reduction in the amount of meds that we give to the dog. And finally, I'd just like to get you to bear in mind when you're watching the video that any supplement, any medication is only part of the issue. You have to look at the diet, you have to look at the environment, you have to look at the state of the immunity, what other pharmaceuticals that might be being taken on board on a regular basis. So you've got to look at the big picture. So with those things in mind, enjoy the presentation. Thank you. Hi guys. The very nice people at ProDog Raw have asked me to talk to you about what makes dogs itch. It's a very, very common problem. The stats are something like 15 or 20% of all dogs in the UK will have itching problems, and some of them can be lifelong. So it's a really, really big deal, and I think we're seeing even more of it than we used to. So let's go through what makes dogs itch. Okay, so there are 3 major areas of that make dogs itch. So 99% of dogs will be in these 3 major categories. Okay, and it's really important to realize that you could have a foot in each camp. Okay, so it's important that if you're dealing with itch, that you don't just treat one thing at a time. I'll talk to you about that at the end once we've gone through it, but it's really important to realize that when you're dealing with itch, you might be dealing with 3 different things which all come together to give you a single symptom, which is itchy ears, itchy bum, itchy feet, itchy side. And therefore you have to be quite careful to try and unravel it. You can do it with your vet as well, to unravel it, but there is quite a lot that you can do at home. And for me, food is a large part. It's not the whole of it, but it's a large part of the whole thing. So let's have a look. There are 3 things that make dogs itch. Number 1 is parasites, and we've got that here. Number 2 is sensitivities and allergies. Okay, and number 3 is infections. Okay, parasites, sensitivities, also called allergies. It's technically they're not, but we can call them allergies if you like. Okay, so we've got parasites, allergies, infection. Those 3, and it is possible to have parasites and allergies and infection. In fact, that's quite a common presentation. So it means, with this example, if you just treat for fleas, you may not help the itch whatsoever, because there's still infection in the skin and there's still sensitivity to, for example, lamb, or sensitivity to pollen or something like that. Yeah, so if you've got flea sensitivity, or if you've got a flea infestation and you change the diet, then you can't expect just to change your diet to get rid of fleas, okay? Or if you treat for fleas and you get the diet right, but you don't get rid of infection, yeast or bacterial infection, then you're still not going to make the improvement that you're looking for. So this is why dermatology is often, it's like a many-handed approach in order to treat a single symptom, which is itch. Okay, so that's one of the key factors that I really, really like to get across. Okay, so the first one is parasites. So parasites are in this scenario are on the outside of the body, and the most common is of course fleas, but also we've got to remember mange, and we've got to remember in the autumn we've got harvest mites. Okay, sometimes you can see these things, sometimes you can't. If you even suspect, then it's worth talking to your vet to get some control of these things. There are natural ways to control fleas, but if you've got a good going infestation with fleas, for example, then you will have to talk to your vet. At my practice, we use Cedarcide as a spray. We use Bilinomate as a herbal thing to make you less attractive to fleas and ticks, and we also use ProDog insect defense spray for smaller dogs. It's a spray of essential oils to make you less attractive to fleas. Mange, you usually don't see, it's just very, very itchy and there's nothing to see. There are treatments, there are spot-on, there are tablet treatments. I prefer the spot-ons to the tablets, but I don't really like any of them, frankly. So hopefully the dog hasn't got mange. Kailatiella is this thing called walking dandruff, which you can see occasionally, but your vets will be able to help you with that. And to be honest, most of the flea treatment will knock out Kailatiella. Okay, so number 1, parasites. Number 2, allergies. Okay, now let's say you've got an itchy dog and you've been to the vet and they've treated the dog, they've treated the house, and there is no fleas are not cause, but the dog is still itching. So then the vet will look at the skin and say, is there infection? And they will treat that. If there is yeast infection, they'll use a shampoo. If there is bacterial infection, they'll use a shampoo or an antibiotic. Hopefully it's not so bad that you need to use an antibiotic, but we'll talk about infection in a second, because infection is usually secondary to either fleas and damaging your skin because you're scratching so much, or it's secondary to allergies because you're scratching your skin and damaging yourself so much. Okay, so that's why we put infection at the end. Allergies are really quite simple. There are 3 things, lots of threes with this talk. There are indoor allergens, there are outdoor allergens, and there are food allergens. Okay, so indoor allergens, as per the thing here, we've got house dust mites, storage mites. So these are basically things that children, for example, can spark off children's asthma. Okay, they are normal parts of a household, and they themselves do not cause itch. It's your body's reaction to those normal things, like indoor allergens, outdoor allergens, and food, that cause it. Okay, so otherwise, every person, every dog in the whole UK would be itchy. If house dust caused itch, everybody would be itchy, wouldn't they? They're not. It's only those who are sensitive to house dust that cause the itch. So indoor allergens are those. Outdoor allergens are pollens from trees, pollens from grasses mainly. Okay, food allergens, the beauty of food is that you can do something about it. You can't do much about indoor allergens, even if you hoover very, very frequently. There is still those allergens there. Outdoor allergens you can't do really much about at all. You can wipe the dog's feet when they come in during the summer, but otherwise not really. You can talk to your vet about hyposensitization vaccination. If you've got a dog who's under 4 years old, some dogs will respond to a series of jabs which are chosen because they mimic what the dog is allergic to. So you take a blood test, you find out what the dog is allergic to, indoor and outdoor allergens, and you can make up this vaccine and you give it for a year, and up to 45% of dogs less than 4 years old can respond to that. Worth talking to your vet about. Food, however, you've got complete control, and this is the beauty of it, because I find that even if you have got some indoor and some outdoor allergens on blood test, if you get the food right, that can sometimes take your itch scores down so low. Here I am itching. Can take the itch score down so low that it becomes manageable. So food, that's the beauty of food. That's one of the reasons I'm so passionate about and drone on about food all the time. So for me, with dogs who have got food intolerances, and there aren't that many, but they are there, I will always look at wheat, beef and chicken. Now, if your dog can eat beef and chicken fine, then obviously those things are fine. So if they've got a great coat, they've got great skin and great bowels, and they're on beef and chicken, happy days. Yeah. But if you've got an itchy dog, then it's definitely worth talking to your food company or your vet or nutritionist about how can we take out the beef and chicken elements of the diet. The best way to think about that is to always read what's actually in the food. Don't just read the front, but turn the pack over and look at the back and see what meats are in that food. And personally, I will do food trials. So let's say you've got rid of all the any sign of fleas. No, you've got rid of fleas. You've got rid of infection, and you therefore and you know that the dog either is or isn't allergic to indoor and outdoor things, and you've come down to food. The way to investigate food is a food trial, and with raw food, I find that just going exclusively onto one protein, either within a complete or just the meat with bone and organ from that same animal for 2 to 4 weeks. Okay, so you're just feeding that one protein for 2 to 4 weeks. What you have to make sure is that any treats match the protein. So let's say, for example, you're feeding lamb as a trial. You've got a sneaky feeling that beef and chicken might be causing some degree of itch. So you go on to lamb. You use lamb. It has bone ground into it. Maybe it has some veggies in it, or you can add some green veg, because that doesn't usually cause sensitivities. And you go on to lamb. You get dried lamb for treats, for training and things like this, and you'll do that for 2 to 4 weeks. If the dog is allergic to beef or chicken, for example, by going off those, you will find that the itch slides down within 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks. Okay, so that's how you do it. It's good. The only other type of allergy that you can get, and this is just a side note because it's usually quite obvious, is a contact allergy. This is where dog lies on newly treated carpet and gets a rash underneath exactly where they contact the carpet, or dog has a new collar and exactly where the buckle is, they get an itchy spot right there. Okay, so just to be aware of that. While we're here, these are not really allergies, but if a dog has an ear infection for some other reason, maybe they're swimming loads or something, or if they have maybe a bit of toothache, they can. And the most common thing, the most common dog for this is the golden retriever. If they've got an ear issue, like single ear issue, or they've got toothache, and they may scratch their face so much that they produce a big weeping erosion, which we call a hot spot. Okay, so worth going to the vet there, clipping it up, keeping it really clean, really dry, and if you have got it on the face, check the teeth, check the ears. If you're getting hot spots near the tail, then check the anal glands, check for fleas, I would suggest. Okay, but that's not really allergy. I'm just trying to make sure that we've got a whole picture here. So the third thing, so we've got fleas and parasites, we've got allergies, and the third thing is infection. Okay, because when you damage your skin, it can become infected. Everybody has bacteria and yeast and fungus on their skin as a normal course of events. It only becomes a problem when that skin is damaged, altered, moistened, reddened, that these things tend to take off. Okay, because they're usually secondary to the parasites and the allergies of this world. Again, there's three common infections. We've got bacteria, yeast, and fungus. Bacteria is usually, not always, but usually staphylococcal rings, okay? And they come up when the skin is damaged or moistened or somehow changed. You know, so a dog who swims and they stay wet for hours and hours and hours, for example, that could kick off a bit of bacterial infection within the skin. Second one's yeast, Malassezia yeast, easier to say than it is to spell, and you'll know it's Malassezia yeast because the ears, for example, will look kind of greyish and kind of dusty and will smell like old socks, or sometimes you'll get Malassezia under the armpits or in the groin, and it often has this greyish look and this smell. The smell is the key thing. Dogs, as far as we know, don't get candidiasis as we do as humans, but Malassezia is plenty enough of a problem. Taking yeast and yeast products in the food doesn't seem to be linked with having yeast infection on your skin, just as a common misconception. And finally, fungus. This is a less common than the other two. Bacterial and yeast infections are really common when dogs have got itches for other reasons. There is a fungus. The fungus, the most common is the most common presentation. There are a number of funguses that will do it, but it's basically ringworm, and it's often not in a ring, and it's often not, and it is definitely not a worm. Okay, it's just one of those old things that people say. What you'll do is you'll just get a patch that gradually grows. It's not that itchy, slightly itchy, but not that itchy, and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Worth seeing the vet, but what some people do is they'll try a bit of Canesten cream. So if you've got this little patch and doesn't seem to be doing anything, and you put a bit of Canesten and it gets better or even improves, then it's probably a yeast. So worth going to the vet. But if it is pretty simple and the dog is fine and it's not too much of a problem, then I know some people use Canesten. It's not licensed for dogs, but that's what some people do. So there you go. And this is why just changing the diet or just adding a supplement which reduces itchiness is a bit of a problem. From a conventional point of view, if you go to the vet, they will most likely give you flea treatment, because that's the most common cause for itchy dogs, but they may well, especially if the dog is very, very, very itchy, use Apoquel or Cytopoint. Apoquel is a tablet that you take every day or every other day, and Cytopoint is a monthly injection, or steroids, little white tablets that you take every day or every other day. The Atopica is an older preparation which is a little bit harsh, and we're not using that so much. It is available though. they do what they say on the tin, and with most dogs they will eliminate itch. The problem is that many dogs have an itch which is a long-term itch. They've been itching for years and years and years, and so if you just give a 1 or 2 or 3 week course of Apoquel, it's going to be miraculous, but then as soon as you stop, you're back to square one. So I think getting a diagnosis is really, really important when you've got an itchy dog. And good communication with your vet is really important about that. I haven't mentioned anal glands yet, but it's not really a classic skin issue. But if your dog is chasing around at their backside a lot, or if they're scooting, it's not likely worms. It is more likely to be anal glands, and so just nip to the vet and just get them to make sure that the anal glands are not really full. That's, if you're lucky, that's a really easy win. If your dog presents to you every now and again, once a week, once a fortnight, with really smelly breath, it might be that they've got anal gland problems as well, and that they are able to kind of clean their glands and then they come and kiss you. So beware. If it's periodic smelly breath, that would be something that I would look at. If you've got permanently smelly breath, if the dog has got permanently smelly breath, then it's more like, you know, they've got bad teeth, or their digestion's not so great. So there you go, guys. That's a little resume of itch. 3 things that make you itch: parasites, allergies, and infection. Okay, you heard it here. I hope that's useful, and hope all goes very well. Thanks very much.